Who am I? Is a question that every single person asks themselves. In this journey of life, it's a journey of self-discovery as we all try to figure out who we are. And in discovering who we are, we find out a little bit more about our purpose. We find our place in the world, and we can find our people, those who we're going to journey through life together. But it's not always an easy question to answer. Some of us spend a majority of our lives trying to really figure out who we are. I think back of being in high school and all the different groups and the different cliques that there were and all these different people as they gathered together trying to find people that were like them. And so we had the guys that were really into sports and the guys that were really into band and the guys that were really into video games. And everybody just kind of got together in these little pockets. And then what would happen is they'd start dressing similarly. They start looking similar and acting similarly. And so honestly, just walking through the hallways of school, you could identify what group a person was in most times just by looking at them. Because who we connect ourselves to, who we are attached to, tends to affect how we behave, what we look like, and how we live our lives. So our attachments play a huge role in who we are. And so John 15, verses 5 through 8, Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers. And all the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire and burned. But if you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. By this, my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. And so this idea that Jesus says is that I am the vine and you are the branches. You are what grows out of me, and the life that you have comes from me. And so what we see in Scripture is that our life, our salvation, our hope, everything that exists about us comes from our connection to Jesus. And so we are called as Christians to be like a branch that is connected to the vine, but doesn't just connect to it once, but that remains connected to it. So we attach to Jesus. We remain attached to Jesus, and as we do so, we begin to be shaped and molded by Jesus. And so the longer we stay connected to Jesus, the more we hold on to him, the more we become like him. Because what we attach ourselves to tends to shape who we become. So where we connect becomes what we reflect. And that's what Jesus calls us. Connect to him so that we can reflect him. Be a part of him so that we can be an offshoot of him, so that we can be the hands and feet of his ministry, of his work. Because when we search for the question, who am I, the most important question that comes out of that is not who am I, but whose am I? See, we can identify ourselves, we can define ourselves by any number of things, but if we define ourselves by the wrong thing, it will never truly bring satisfaction. A lot of people try to define themselves by their intelligence, by their appearance, by their likes, by their occupation, by people that they're connected to. But the most important way that we define ourselves is by recognizing who we are in relation to Jesus and in relation to what he has done for us. So in John chapter 1, verse 9 through 13, it says, the true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And so John tells us that Jesus came into the world, and for those who would believe in him, he gave the right to become children of God. So regardless of where we've been or what we've done in our life, when we believe in Jesus, we become defined by Jesus because we belong to him. In fact, Jesus says, when you believe in me, you become children of God. And one of the things about children is they have a tendency to look like their parents. And in fact, in Jewish culture, your name was often used in connection to your father. And so Jesus would have been Jesus bar Joseph. And they would have noted who he was, based not just on him, but on who his father and his grandfather and his parents were, because they believed that the power of that parentage was so impactful, not just for the appearance of a person, but for the defining characteristics of who they were. And so what the gospel tries to teach us over and over again is that we should define ourselves by Jesus. Finally, in 1 John chapter 3, verse 1, it says, "See what kind of love the Father has given to us, that we should be called the children of God. And so we are. The reason why the world does not know us is that they did not know him. Beloved, we are God's children now, and what we will be has not yet appeared. But we know that when he appears, we shall be like him, because we shall see him as he sees us. And everyone who thus hopes in him purifies himself as he is pure." The greatest gift that God gives us, outside of his unmerited grace, is the eternal answer to the question, who am I? And when we are attached to Jesus, out of the love of God, we belong to Jesus and we become children of Jesus. And so the commission for each of us is to be like our dad. To be like Jesus, to be like God, to follow their example, to live like Jesus lived, to love like Jesus loved, so that we can look like Jesus looked to the world. So you can search for identity in the things of this world. You can search for identity in all the things around us, but all of those things will let us down. All of those things will fail you and will fall short, because whatever you build your identity on in this life is just shifting sand. But when we build our identity on Jesus, by attaching ourselves to him, by connecting ourselves to him, by remaining in him and clinging on to him, we build our identity on something that cannot be shaken, on something that cannot be taken. And we get to live in the joy of knowing that we belong to God and are his children. There is no greater identity, no greater source for hope in this life than our being children of God.